It's been like a long time since I've done one of these like review videos. I don't know if I'm doing it anymore. Let's get into it. Moriarty the Patriot. Now this anime kind of surprised me a couple different ways. If you've read Sherlock Holmes, you're going to notice that a lot of scenes are very similar because this anime takes a lot of their scenes from the Sherlock Holmes novel. I'm not too familiar with like the Sherlock Holmes type of world, right? So for you, you're probably going to watch this and recognize quite a bit of the scenes. For myself, I was surprised because I've never read the books. All I know about Sherlock Holmes is things from like other shows referencing him or an actual TV show about Sherlock Holmes and a couple movies here and there, but they've all been very different Sherlock Holmes interpretations. Now, this anime doesn't necessarily follow Sherlock Holmes. He's not our main character. It's actually Moriarty is our main character. Keep in mind, there's a family of them. So there are three. We have William James Moriarty, we have Albert James Moriarty, and Louis James Moriarty. But the main person who is the arch nemesis of Sherlock Holmes is William. Every time I refer to Moriarty, I'm talking about William. We really don't get to see Sherlock Holmes until about like 6 or 7 episodes into the anime, and he becomes that counterpart for Moriarty. And they share that mutual intelligence with one another of how they analyze all situations, but I feel like you get to see that Moriarty is just a little bit more ahead of Sherlock. There are times where they play off of each other, but for the most part, Moriarty seems to always be like a step ahead of him. Sherlock Holmes plays more of our comedic relief character. He's not very serious or just simply this intellectual person. He definitely plays off of him being the comedic relief. Here, he's kind of like a deadbeat. Now, to get into a little bit of how the world is built for here, it is definitely a caste system where here's the rich, here's the poor. The poor can never really rise up to where the rich is at because the rich would do everything they can to keep the poor where they're at. The Moriartys want to change that aspect. They want to give the poor an opportunity to have that chance to rise, but also to bring the rich down to the level, at least to see the level of the poor people. There's a lot of evil rich people, which is kind of like not a surprise, but what they do is very evil. So trigger warning potentially for some people when you're watching this, because the first episode right off the bat will get you a little bit like, what the hell? That was really dark kind of sensation. Nonetheless, the Moriartys want to teach the rich this lesson, but unfortunately they have to do it in a very illegal kind of way. The rich will get away with it no matter what, and because money talks, they'll be able to pay their way out of pretty much anything in order to get justice for people. The way to that justice is not legal or morally correct. Moriarty is not in any way trying to say like he is a martyr. He knows what he's doing is wrong, and he's trying to hold on to all of that sin for himself, but he has to play it out the way that he's planned it since he was a child. You need to pay attention to every episode that's going on because everything falls into place later on. Here, all the flashbacks make sense. They only do flashbacks when it has to push another story forward, explain what just happened and why Moriarty's doing that decision. Also, it could explain a character that's about to show up and what this character's doing and why this character hates the brothers. All the detective work that's in it, it's not too overly complicated where you're sitting there going, her? Like, it makes sense to you of what is happening. At least it did to me, and I don't like follow detective stuff very well. Very little stuff kind of like boggled me a little bit. Even though Moriarty is like his arch nemesis, they're actually more friends. But because they're standing on two different sides of the moral compass, like, they really can't be good friends with each other, unfortunately. They do in front of the public eye. When something happens, Sherlock is like, Moriarty's behind this. Certain things you'll recognize that are different. James Bond situation, that was a change. I wasn't expecting that. That was a wow moment for me. Jack the Ripper. I did not know if this was a true fact or maybe just the anime doing it. Clearly, I didn't look it up afterwards. I don't even know too much about Jack the Ripper, but I like the way that they kind of showed the story of Jack the Ripper, not in depth. It's just the person who's supposed to be the Jack the Ripper original character or such like that. We have all these side characters. They're all interesting. Best part We don't need to go into their backstory. We don't need to dig. We get like the bare minimum of their backstory, and we're content with that. We don't need to go into whole episodes of their backstories and where they came from in their childhood, and we don't need none of that. And all the side characters are perfect. Going forward from here, it's a little bit of spoilers because I am going to mention 2 parts of the anime that maybe if you don't want to know about it yet because you're going to watch it, then don't. Then move on. Now, go watch it. Go do that. The James Bond character, right? So she's this very popular courtesan, and she pretty much does the stupid thing of getting information to blackmail someone, and now they want to kill her. So Sherlock Holmes finds himself having to try to help her, and the best way to help her is he can't help her, but Moriarty can, and he does help her. But the way to help her is her character as a female, she must die to become another person. They decide to make her into a male. Why? I don't know. I guess it's easier, and she was like a performer, so it made it easy for her to perform as a male because she's done it before to go undercover. And because the Moriarty's middle name are all James, they give her the title James, and she decides that her last name is going to be Bond because of the new bonds she's making. So silly. I don't think that was very clever, to be very honest. Honestly, I guess it made sense in that moment. Does not bother me that James Bond is a female. My only thing is that she made no difference to the group. There was such a small difference that this person provided. Like, they could have just made her James Bond and kept her moving, you know? Like, we don't need to keep her around if she's not going to do much. Now, what could have been a little bit better, maybe this is just me, and like I said, I don't know how the books are, but because Moriarty at the end has to die, he has to take all the sin with him. He is the bad person. He is the evil person everyone sees. So that way the people are already united. You have the poor and the rich are now united in their hatred towards Moriarty. So he has to die for them to keep this union between them now. They're no longer at this separate caste system 100%. They're a little bit closer. Their gap is now closer because Sherlock actually ends up somehow saving him, even though everyone thinks he disappeared, that Moriarty is dead, but his body's never found. I think that would have been a better opportunity to introduce James Bond, because wouldn't that be awesome to have like a double agent situation of where it's Moriarty and then it's James Bond is the same person. Now I get it, like Moriarty is not the most athletic as James Bond would be, but I do feel like because we're already changing some aspects in this world and nothing is to the point, I feel like that would have been okay. But instead we'll have Moriarty, the intelligent agent, James Bond. I feel like that could have been like a nicer transition, a better like Easter egg. That would have been way better than James Bond the female, per se. Now that's my take on it, personally. It's just my take. And I get it, it probably would have worked because of a lot of different aspects of it, because maybe Moriarty's now like out in the countryside, he's living a better life, he's more quiet, doesn't have to be in the spotlight, or you know, he's lived his life as a childhood kind of in a situation. But I feel like as an intellectual person as he is, he wouldn't want to just sit back and relax. I don't think that's what he would want to do. I think he would still want to continue, you know, using his mind in different areas and not necessarily take such a backseat. That's just my take on the whole entire thing. If you do watch it, let me know what you think about it. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? That's totally fine. Do you think like it was perfectly the way it was? Have you read the Sherlock Holmes books and watched this anime and see the similarities and recognize the situations? Then yeah, that would be interesting. I'd like to see what you say.